All right. Welcome, my friends, to next episode of the Red Delta Project podcast live feed Q&A here on the Red Delta Project YouTube channel. I'm Matt Schifferly with another episode to help you be fit and live free. Today's episode is inspired by a number of videos and content that I've been really learning a lot about, reading books, watching videos on YouTube and stuff, all about kind of the art and science of happiness. Because after all, as I explained in my latest book, Be Fit and Live Free, taking fitness as purely a physical endeavor can be a big mistake because it's not a physical endeavor. It is a human endeavor, which means that we must have a holistic, more comprehensive view of what goes into a successful, healthy lifestyle from the point of a human being, which means we've got to consider things like feelings, emotions, motivation, and all these other things that sometimes kind of get swept under the rug within our fitness culture of, it doesn't matter how you feel, blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. That's a big mistake because a lot of us, our lives are dictated by how we feel and how something that we practice makes us feel. And no, that doesn't make us weak, or it doesn't mean that we are lesser for doing that. It means you're human. And the thing about fitness is that it is nothing more than a vehicle towards many things. It can be an effective vehicle towards performance and athleticism. It can be a vehicle towards aesthetic improvement and making yourself look better, which is the subject of my new book coming out called Beautiful Strength, which I discussed in the previous episode. And yes, it can certainly be an effective vehicle for helping you live a happier and more fulfilling life. You can be happier from your diet and exercise habits. But unfortunately, because exercise and fitness as a whole can be so potent, it can also have the opposite effects. It can compromise and hurt your performance. It can make you feel and look even worse than if you had done nothing at all, through imbalances and poor posture and so on. And yes, fitness can certainly make you less happy or unhappy, shall we say. And I've certainly had lots of experience with that over the years, and experiencing that the more I pushed myself, the more I pursued diet and exercise, the more unhappy I became. So it's not necessarily just as simple as eat right and exercise and you'll be better off. You have to make sure that you're addressing things in the proper way. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's jump right on in and address probably the biggest myth when it comes to becoming more happy with diet and exercise. And that is the myth that your happiness is more of a contingent upon achieving your goals and getting the results you want. Now, I'm not about to sit here and say that achieving your goals and losing the weight and building the muscle and getting the body you want isn't going to make you happy. Absolutely, it certainly can to at least some degree. But as the science and anecdotal evidence around the evidence of how to be happy shows us, is that when we place too much of our ability to be happy upon a specific outcome, this can actually compromise your happiness in several ways. The first of which is that if you're saying, okay, I'm never going to be happy until I lose the weight, well, now you are deferring happiness until that happens. And it could be months, hell, even years until you reach that objective. Hell, you may not even achieve that objective at all. When people ask me sometimes here on the channel, they're like, how long will it take me to build this much muscle or get the arms that I want or the abs or lose the weight and stuff? I kind of have a little bit of a cheeky response to say, well, what makes you think it's ever going to happen at all? What makes you think you're going to be successful in that? And that's not me being mean or an jackass or anything. It's just simply facing the fact that a lot of people who strive to achieve a result, particularly anything really notable, will fail to do so. And so we have to be real about that. There's no automatic guarantees that you're going to get what you want or achieve a result in your lifetime, let alone along a specific timeline. So deferring your happiness until you achieve a result is a big mistake because there's no guarantee you're going to even get there at all. And it may be a lot longer than what you think it may be until that happens. The second thing is a lot of times you achieve a result and it really doesn't do all that much for you. Back when I was bike racing in college, I thought, man, if I won a bike race, oh my gosh, that would totally change my life. That would change everything about how I feel about myself. That would change my collegiate bike racing career. I thought that, parades in my honor kind of thing. Like, I thought it would be a monumental stepping stone and make some major things happen in my life, especially like emotionally. And lo and behold, I did end up winning a race eventually. And it was kind of a underdog story. I had a broken bike. In fact, I couldn't shift gears and everything. And it was this heroic kind of race, come from behind kind of deal. And for, yeah, a short period of time, I was like, whoa, I rule. I actually won this race. This is amazing. This is monumental. High fives all around. Fantastic. And then after about an hour, I was just kind of sitting there going, so, so that's it, huh? So I got a pat on the back and a attaboy and some points on the board for the team. And that was it. And it didn't really change much of anything. Yeah, sure, it changed my confidence level. It certainly sent some ripple effects throughout my perception of me as a bike racer. But for the most part, it was kind of a lackluster, like, oh, it just didn't really make that much difference. And that can be a very disappointing thing and actually make you unhappy in many cases. I remember the story, I think it was Deion Sanders, some notable football player who was telling a story one time, and he was like, I had everything going for me. I was literally driving home after winning the Super Bowl, might have even been MVP, like winning the Super Bowl. And I was trying to think of reasons why I shouldn't drive my Lamborghini off a cliff. He's like, because he achieved this great big thing. And he was like, and I was miserable because it didn't really make me all that happy. It really didn't hit me all that much, or it was kind of a letdown. So there's that aspect too. And more importantly, especially when it comes to fitness, is recognizing too that when you are hoping to have happiness to achieve a result, a lot of times in our fitness culture, we have this idea of it's fine to make massive sacrifices and be unhealthy and be miserable and put yourself through hell on earth now, because once you achieve the results, then it'll be worth it. Then I get to be happy. But the fact of the matter is that whatever methods and habits you used to achieve a result, you have to maintain indefinitely in order to maintain that result. Some results can be a little bit different like that. Like if your goal is, like, the Olympics are going on now, to win a gold medal, then sure, if you win a gold medal in the Olympics, you're a Olympic champion for the rest of your life, even if you become an absolute couch potato from that moment on. But when it comes to the physiological adaptations we want to lose weight, want to build muscle, and so forth, whatever you did to achieve it, you have to indefinitely maintain to at least some degree, lest you lose those results. So if you're miserable getting to a result, you're going to be miserable maintaining that result. So this isn't meant to discourage you. It's not meant to say, oh, don't pursue the result. It's not going to be worth it and it's going to make you unhappy. It's just recognizing the reality of the situation, that the result that you're after, the objective you're going for, is more about a compass needle. Like, all of my methods and my books and stuff are not about here's how you do it step by step process, because largely that's a guessing game anyway, but instead something to aim at, something to go in a direction for. When you are shooting a target in archery, the target doesn't make you happy. It's shooting towards it and getting more proficient at the practice of archery that makes you happier. And that's what you want to be focused on, is process focused rather than just goal focused. The goal gives you a direction to guide the process, but you want to implement diet and exercise habits that make you feel good and make you happier in the short term. Now, you want to be happier today. When I'm working out, when I'm riding on my mountain bike, when I'm skiing and hiking and doing things like that, I'm happy for the sake of doing those things in and of themselves. There's an inherent value in my emotional state from those itself. So they give me more of like an instant gratification, which is a very powerful and a very good thing. So I avoid that whole I can be miserable now because it'll be worthwhile in the end. Second is, yeah, sure, It makes me happier to build muscle. It makes me happier to feel stronger. It makes me happier to win that bike race and stuff. But I don't have all of my hopes on that single objective because I know that's not going to be enough. I know that's not going to be something that I should put my hope and faith in my health, happiness, and self worth on. Because, of course, there's also the hedonic treadmill. Even if you're like, God, wouldn't it be amazing if I won a gold medal in the Olympics? Then you win the gold medal and you're like, wouldn't it be amazing if I won 2 gold medals in the Olympics, right? We're always striving for more, which is perfectly fine, which is good. In fact, that can be a big part of being happier, as I'll discuss in a second here. But when your happiness is always deferred down the road until you achieve an objective, you're never going to be there. You're never going to make that happiness happen for you. So appreciation for what you have and what you've accomplished is also extremely key. So enjoying the process, appreciation for what you have, not having your happiness contingent upon achieving a given result will help not only make you a lot happier really quickly, but also avoid things that can potentially make you unhappy. Because one of the things about the science of happiness that I'm learning is a lot of times it's not so much about doing or having things that make you happy. It's about sometimes kind of reducing things that make you unhappy. Okay, so let me give you another example. What, say, for example, you've got sore knees, sore joints, and so forth. Right now, will having better joints, will having healthy knees make you happy? No, it won't. However, having sore knees can make you unhappy. And nobody's walking around going like, I'm so happy, my knees feel great, unless they recently had the relief of alleviating knee pain. But for the most part, the things that can be a standard in our life isn't something we're consciously aware of. We're not appreciating it, nor should we. Right? I know there's a lot of that idea out there of like appreciate what you have. Like I'm not going around and being like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I can read. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that my doorknob works or something like that. And sure, there's a time and place for that, but we only have so much attention we can put towards things. So eliminating things that make you unhappy sometimes can be a better way to go about it rather than always striving for things that make you elevate your happiness. So look at your fitness habits. Again, we often have that rhetoric in our fitness culture telling us that it's okay to be miserable now, the payoff will be worth it in the end. And so we accept this misery. We accept these things that make us unhappy. And I'm telling you that that's not a good plan, largely because a lot of the things, as we learn about a fundamental in fitness, is that a lot of the things we subject ourselves to in put stress on mind, body, and lifestyle are totally unnecessary. Many of them don't even help. They don't even move the needle very much. And so we're effectively making ourselves more miserable doing things in our habits that compromise our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health, our quality of life that not only don't help at all in achieving your results, but they're completely unnecessary. For example, like, giving up sweets, for example, right? You hear a lot of fear mongering out there in the dietary world of don't ever eat this food, don't eat that food, and so forth. Yeah, I know a lot of people who they're like, I just, gave up sugar and stuff. I feel a lot better. I don't miss it and stuff. Fantastic, great. But I know for me, for one, like I've done that before. I was pretty miserable because I had food cravings and I was like, man, I really miss my Ben and Jerry's. Man, I love chocolate. I can't believe I'm never going to eat chocolate again. I can't believe I'm never going to be able to eat my mom's chocolate chip cookies again. Making that sacrifice made me pretty miserable. And yeah, there's time and places where that may be necessary, especially in the short term. Like if I was getting stage ready, for example, that may be something I need to do. But I also know it's short term and I don't need to continue it indefinitely. But if you have diet and exercise habits that you recognize are making you unhappy, seriously question if they're necessary, because they're probably not. And if they're not necessary and you don't want to do them, there's literally no good reason to do them. Yeah, but they're effective. They can help me get the results. So what? That doesn't matter. All right. don't make the goal, the objective, the sole defining purpose behind everything that you are doing. Right. And again, a lot of times this is how we sabotage our happiness. It's like I'm willing to exhibit all kinds of misery upon mind, body, and lifestyle because I know once I've got abs, my life will be perfect. Once I lose the weight, then I'll be happy because then I will have the body of my dreams and so forth, and everything's going to be great. No, it probably doesn't work like that. So be acutely aware of habits like, is your diet and exercise routine so high maintenance that it is stressing you out? Do you have a lot of anxiousness and anxiety over food? Do you have an exercise routine that is making you feel exhausted and tired and beat up all the time? Do you have an approach where your self image of yourself is so negative that you feel like I can't be happy with myself, I can't appreciate my body or like what I see in the mirror to any degree until I achieve a result? These are surefire recipes for unhappiness. And even if you could alleviate them, no, they're not necessarily going to make you happier. It's like my car right now has brakes that need to be fixed. So there it's kind of a pain in the neck, right? And they're making me unhappy. My brakes in my car don't make me a little unhappy every time I drive. When I get my brakes fixed, will that make me happier? No, it's going to be a relief from the unhappiness. But after a week, I'm not even going to think about it anymore. I just hit the brakes and I stop like it's supposed to, right? You're not supposed to be thinking about your brakes in your car, right? It's just something that's supposed to just work, right? And that's how a lot of things in fitness should be. It shouldn't be something that you have to think about all the time. I don't think about my ability to use my hands very much, nor should I. I like taking that for granted. That means I can put my attention towards more meaningful and important things in my life. I'm not just going to stand there and be like, wow, holy smokes, my hand works. Now, if I had a broken hand, I'm sure I would feel that way because I was overcoming the unhappiness that came from having a busted up hand. But it's not necessarily a path to happiness. So look at the things in your fitness life and your life in general that are making you unhappy. See how quickly you can alleviate them, get rid of them, minimize them as much as possible. And don't think that alleviating them is going to be the key to a happier life, because it's going to bring relief, but not necessarily happiness. All right, get a couple questions. Shamar Thomas, excuse me, saying, hey Matt, how high should your effort really be to stimulate growth with calisthenics? Should you go to or close to technical failure or muscular failure? I'm always telling you, Sherman, go as hard as you can. Bottom line, all right, there's a lot of ideas out there in fitness culture that tell you what rules you should be following. All right, how many sets you should do, how much work you need to do, sort of thing. But when it comes to stimulating muscle growth, that comes from pushing your muscles to a high degree of fatigue. Okay, that's that. As far as I understand it now, that's what the science is heavily suggested, is pushing your muscles to a high degree of fatigue. Now, you can make that happen faster if you have more intensity. You can make it happen slower if you're doing low intensity. Always remember, volume and intensity are inversely proportional. So if you're doing hundreds of reps or many, many sets, anything that's high volume is low intensity. So it's endurance, in other words, and that can certainly work. I personally like to go higher intensity. I have no interest in doing 100 push-ups. If someone's like, would you do 100 push-ups? I'm like, why? Why would I do 100 push-ups? You know, I could bicep curl a 2-pound weight in the gym and just make my biceps burn like crazy, but I got better things to do with my life. I don't want to train low intensity. I like high intensity stuff. If I can do something for more than 10 to 15 reps or more than 20 seconds, it's got to be harder. Got to be harder. I don't want something that's so easy that I could do it for that long. If I could do it for a long period of time, not interested in that. And that goes a long way at knowing what makes you happy. I'm not going to be happy doing endless push-ups. I've done that before. It's a pretty good road for me to be miserable, and for a lot of other people too. And we don't want to make a rule in charge. You want to make an objective in charge. I've been making a lot of videos lately about the importance of the fundamental objectives with training, because it's not about how many sets you do. It's not about whether or not you're going to failure. It's not about how hard you're pushing. It's about how much you're achieving the fundamental objective relative to your goals. And you could do that however you want: high intensity, low intensity, free weights, calisthenics, big range of motion, short range. There's all sorts of debates out there about the rules, and most of it is a complete waste of time, because as long as you're achieving the objective to a fair degree, that's what's responsible for your results. So, coming back around, asking your question, how hard should you go, close technical failure and stuff like that? Technical failure can happen after 2 sets. Like, what are you defining as technical failure? This is one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of utilizing the idea of failure, because it's so subjective. Going to failure is incredibly subjective. Subjective failure of what? If I'm doing pull-ups, chest to the bar, and after 5 reps, I barely get my chest to the bar, then that's failure, because I can't get my chest to the bar. But I can still keep doing pull-ups and get my chest close to the bar. So this rule that you follow of technical failure and all these sorts of things, it's largely, again, made up. It's subjective. And I'm not a big fan of following subjective rules unless it's something that just kind of works for you. Instead, just push yourself to fatigue. You're looking for pushing your muscles to the point where it's difficult to continue doing an exercise. And that's where you want to go for the objective for stimulating hypertrophy. You could do it however you want, in whatever degree, keeping in mind that your ability to push yourself with a high degree of fatigue, of effort, is also going to change on a day-to-day basis. And this is why I haven't followed a regular workout program in years. Best thing I ever did was adjust things to an adaptive approach. That's why I wrote one of my quick reads, the Adaptive Training Bible. It's over at reddeltaproject.com, because bringing about adaptability to my training was one of the best things I've ever done in my training career, as well as for my clients, because it dramatically reduces the stress on mind, body, and lifestyle. So you're avoiding a lot of the things that can make you unhappy about exercise, while at the same time making your workouts a hell of a lot more effective and a lot more satisfying and fulfilling, both in the short and long term, which helps it to become much more happiness inducing. And so that's what we want to do, is have that objective and then train however you can and want on a case by case basis. All right. Let's continue on with some more tips here. Sometimes when it comes to getting what you want and feeling happier in life, as I addressed in a couple of episodes earlier, it's also about recognizing what is important to you. And fitness, there's a million things you could do in fitness. You can be a marathoner. You can be into yoga. You could go rock climbing. You can be effective for riding the triple bypass out here, or hike a 14er, do one-arm push-ups. Whatever is important to you, that's what you should pursue. And there's a lot of folks out there who will tell you that this is the worthwhile pursuit. This pursuit is what you should do. You should be able to do this. You should do that. That's a good thing for ideas, but you inherently know inside what is worthwhile to you. And if you don't, you find it out through experience. You should try lots of things. So, for example, I used to be a long distance bike rider and racer. Right? I used 50-mile mountain bike rides, 100 miles on the road bike rides that would literally take all day, where it'd be 7, 8, 9 hours in the saddle and so forth. And there was a time that made me happy. But as my body changed, as my goals changed, as my life changed, I started to realize that this isn't alignment with what I want to do. This isn't what I want to practice upon my body and my lifestyle. And several years ago, I went and I did a mountain bike challenge, just kind of on a whim. A friend of mine was like, do this, it'd be fun. I'm like, yeah, okay, I haven't done this in a while. And at the end of the day, I got home and I was exhausted. I was tired. It was like 10, 11 hours in the saddle. And I was like, I honestly regret doing that. Yeah, sure, it was a challenge and I overcame and all that sort of thing. Big deal. So what? I could do that just holding a plank for 2 minutes. right? The whole time I was out there, I was like, I really honestly have better things to be doing with my time. I don't want to be out here. I don't feel good about doing this. Sure, I love mountain biking. Sure, I enjoy getting out in nature, but I can satisfy that desire for mountain biking on a ride that's like 2 hours, 3 hours long, not all day. And so recognizing what is important to you is a big step towards becoming happy with these sorts of things. Because it doesn't matter if some guru out there is like, oh man, cold plunges were life changing and being able to run a marathon or ultra marathons is the ultimate source of toughness. If you honestly, truly don't find these things worthwhile, there is no good reason for you to be doing them. Zero good reason. I'm going to say that again. If you don't find those habits worthwhile, you should not be doing them because they're going to make you unhappy and they're probably going to eat resources away from the things that will make you happier, that will make you a more fulfilling lifestyle. So knowing that about yourself is a big step forward towards being happier because it doesn't matter if it's supposed to work, if it's supposed to make you happier, if someone else loves it. It's all about how you feel about the thing. And that's what you should be basing your habits off of and what you're going to be using in the pursuit of your happiness. Let's see if my notes here, a couple last things before I sign off. Oh, yes. Last point here is one of the things about human nature, because again, a fundamental approach recognizes that your fitness is just as much about human nature as it is the processes of mother nature. And that's a big mistake I think make is they will pour over the textbooks and the science and the studies about how the body burns fat and how we build muscle and all that. But if we're ignoring or sometimes even fighting against the principles and ways of human nature, then we're literally shooting ourselves in the foot. Because again, fitness is not a physical endeavor, it is a human endeavor. So when it comes to happiness for human beings, one of the things that's been observed many times over in many different disciplines is that it's not so much the destination we're at, but the direction we're headed that makes us happier. For example, I've seen people who, on paper, you look at them and they're like, they're not strong, they're not fit, they're overweight. They, on paper, it's like you have nothing that, most people would consider a good physique, right? And yet they're overjoyed and they love their fitness practice. Why? Because they're making progress. They went from 1 push-up to 3 push-ups. They lost 5 pounds, even though they're still overweight. They went from being able to hardly walk up a flight of stairs to now being able to run around the block. Right? And a lot of people will look at that and be like, big deal, you can run around the block. Big deal, you can do 3 push-ups. There's nothing to be proud of. Yes, of course it should be something to be proud of because they made improvements. They move forward. They are achieving those fundamental objectives to a higher degree. That's what inherently brings us happiness. But at the same time, someone can, on paper, seem very well off. People have millions of dollars, have the perfect physique or insane performance, and yet they're miserable. Why? Because they look at their net worth and it's gone down a little bit. And most people would look at it and be like, dude, you're worth $100 million. What's losing $1 million to you? Because they're losing ground. Or someone who is like, they can do pull-ups all day long, and yet instead of being able to do 30 pull-ups, they now can only do 22 pull-ups today. Right? So it's not where you are, it's the direction you're headed in. And that again makes fitness as a whole much more accessible to everybody, regardless of their circumstances, on a day-to-day basis. Because you can improve and make progress today in even a small way. But a lot of times we ignore these sorts of things. Many times when people ask me, like at a party or something, like, I want to start getting in shape, I'll recommend or ask them a few little emotional interview questions and stuff like, okay, so sounds to me like I want to make sure you get a little protein at each meal, and let's practice some countertop push-ups and maybe some isometric squats. But they don't like that advice. Why? Because it's not extreme. It's not a big deal. They think it's got to be a huge thing, but it doesn't matter. It just needs to be improvement and progress. Over the past year, I've gone a long way in improving my emotional state because as I've been talking a little bit openly about here on the podcast, I had a lot of stress and anxiety over several life situations over the past year or two. And one of the things that I started to practice to get me out of that situation is just environmental improvements here. Just things that are small things. Like behind me, I don't know if you can see, like I've got little changes I would have out here. Like I hang up my tapestry, over there instead of having bare wall. Or I would rearrange my little YouTube corner and stuff, put the books in a better area or something. Little things like that go a long way at helping us improve and therefore be happier. So I'm always kind of scanning. And sometimes we lambast this in our culture these days. It's like, oh, you're never happy. You're never satisfied. You're always trying to improve and level up, and you're never happy with what you have. That's not the way it works. Improvement and progress is from happiness. When you clean your house, when you achieve a level of fitness, when you lose a little bit of weight, of course you want more of something that you enjoy and appreciate. If you didn't enjoy and appreciate it, you wouldn't want more of it. So improving and progression, of course, not always possible, but seek it out because that's what's more responsible for your happiness rather than arriving at a destination. And the last point I'll say on that is also have very much a, multi-progressional approach to things. If your measurement of progress is one thing, oh, there I go sideways again. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard. Sorry, folks. Is when you are basically putting your emotional wherewithal on the scale, and that's the one thing you're focusing on is how much you weigh, then your emotional state is contingent upon a number or how many push-ups you can do or how much money is in your bank account or whatever, right? If you're on one single metric and that's the sole determining thing you're using to base your happiness off of, that's naturally going to fluctuate, which means you're not in charge and as much in control of your happiness as you could be because you are basing your happiness on factors that are outside your control. But if you have more of a multi-dimensional approach to progression, like, okay, I can't do as many push-ups, but I'm getting a deeper range of motion. Or, okay, I couldn't push myself as hard, but my muscle activation in my chest is better. Or my weight isn't going down, but I'm feeling a lot better. I'm sleeping a lot better. And my diet's improving because I'm eating a lot more satisfying foods, right? The more ways that you can make progress in more different directions, the more avenues you have for happiness, and the greater the chances are you're going to be able to weather the storms of life versus someone who it's like, it's all about how many push-ups I can do or solely about how much I weigh. Well, there's one thing that I can use to absolutely tear you down and destroy you because you've got one leg you're standing on and it's going to falter sooner or later. And with it, all of your hopes and dreams and fulfillment and happiness goes with it. So have many things that you're appreciating about your fitness. Look at many areas that you can improve upon. And with that, you're going to have a much broader base and many legs that you can stand on. And therefore, not only do you have a chance of being much happier, but you're much more resilient with that happiness as well. All right. And lastly, here are a couple of ones. Bargun Journey saying, Coach, new timing is Wednesday instead of Saturday. Now, good. I have diet related questions. What do you think about the red wax cheese as a source of protein and expensive, unlike chicken and red meat? So yeah, I'm doing my podcast just kind of haphazardly throughout the week. I'm still trying to maintain the Saturday time, but sometimes my schedule doesn't allow it. So literally I have podcasts that I'm doing that are going to be, I'm trying to figure out how to tilt myself. I don't know why I tilted. My schedule is all over the place. And so what I do is I'm going to be just doing them as I can, just on the spur of the moment. Saturday or Wednesday mornings are looking like something I consistently do. I'm still going to do the Saturday times, but I'm going to be doing this more is the point. I'm going to be coming out with these podcasts a lot more. So a lot of folks, getting back to your question about protein sources and stuff, don't worry about it. A lot of debate out there about protein sources and things like that. Largely, it's a complete waste of time. Just get protein. Get your protein in. Yeah, there's more complete proteins depending on how the amino acid profile is. And it used to be believed that if you have low quality proteins, then it's basically junk and you can only build muscle and be healthy with high quality proteins, or you need complementary proteins, which was very much the rhetoric in vegan and vegetarian sources. But the bottom line is get protein, get lots of sources of protein, as long as you're getting the complete amino acid profile to some degree pretty much throughout the day or half the day and so forth. Don't worry too much about the sources of it. It's much, much more important that the protein sources are something you enjoy eating. So I could tell you all day long of like, oh yeah, cheese, great protein. You should eat cheese like crazy. But if you're like, dude, I hate cheese. I don't like cheese. I just, ugh, yeah, it's not very enjoyable. I'd much rather like eat tofu or something. I'm like, tofu is not very good for you. You can't, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Your success depends far more on the enjoyment and personal fulfillment you get from your habits than anything else. So eat what you like, my friends. Eat what you want. If there's a good source of protein, cheese is a good source of protein, animal products, protein, soy is protein, right? Don't get lost in all this debate over like what's good protein and bad protein and things like that. Just get a good amount of it as a whole and good variety of sources throughout the day, and you're probably good. But more importantly, eat what you like, my friends. Eat to satisfy, as I always talk about with everything, is regarding to an actual healthy diet. Your diet's not healthy because of what you eat and don't eat. I know that's kind of the rhetoric in our fitness culture, like your diet depends on what you eat. No, it's not. It depends on how what you eat is making you feel. So that way, that's the outcome. It's not what you eat. It's not whether it's chicken or cheese or tofu or something. That's an influence to things, but it's not going to be the determining factor on whether or not your diet is actually healthy or satisfying. You satisfy your four fundamental appetites. This is what I talk about in all my books. The more you satisfy those appetites, the healthier your diet is, regardless of what you're eating. And granted, satisfying them is naturally going to go more towards whole foods, nutrient dense foods, not eating too much processed foods and sweets and stuff, alcohol in moderation if you choose to drink at all, right? So it's not satisfying your fundamental appetites is not going to stray outside of the regular general guidelines of a healthy diet that are out there. But it does keep you from getting lost in the, what do you think about casein protein versus whey protein? Like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. My stomach feels a little funky if I consume whey protein, but casein is much better. It's like, okay, well then there's your answer. Your feedback and everything is much, much better for what you're doing. Boring accountant, and I'm sideways again. Oh man, I don't know what's going on here, but boring accountant, thank you very much for the coffee, the tip. Thank you very much. Saying spreadsheets and Excel make me happy as an accountant. Yes, spreadsheets, coffee, and data are part of the journey of fitness, diet, and happiness. I love it, man. I absolutely love that. See, now I know for me, spreadsheets make me unhappy. As I've talked in the past, like grids and things like that, my brain doesn't work very well with a gridded system. One time years ago, I went down to Florida, and where my parents live in Sarasota, it's all gridded streets. It's all flat as a pancake, and everything is on a grid, and they're not numbered, right? So I went out on a walk, and within 15 minutes was hopelessly lost because like every street I walked down looked exactly the same, and it was straight and it was flat. There was no topography, so I was so lost. I unfortunately this is before cell phones and things, so couldn't call my parents or use a GPS on a smartphone going like, where the hell am I? I was so lost for hours because it's just my brain does not comprehend grid systems very well for whatever reason. I don't know, but I know that about me. So I created like the adaptive training log so I can log my workouts and workouts of clients without using a gridded system because I know that makes me unhappy. adaptive system makes me happy. But you, boring accountant, you could have the opposite. You're like, I like the order and the structure and the gridded system of spreadsheets and everything like that. I'm envious of you, man. I wish I was like that. I like having things in that nice defined order. That would be great. I just know my brain does not work that way. Try as I might, I've tried so many times and it doesn't work. So this is a great example here, folks, of know thyself. What makes you happy? If boring accountant is like, dude, I can go and rock the Excel spreadsheets and it just brings me calm and peace and makes me happy to track data and analyze everything from the better way to cook rice to my workouts to my budget and everything. Awesome. Great. Do what makes you happy, folks. Don't just assume that there's something out there that's going to bring you or give you happiness. Cultivate and curate it for yourself. Because actually, that's the last point I wanted to make, actually, is that there's an amazing thing about human nature where we are so much happier about taking charge and owning our own habits. I used to very much dislike exercise, largely because someone else was telling me to do it. Coaches in basketball practice telling me to run laps, instructor in Taekwondo telling me to do push-ups and do my sidekicks and stuff. Never liked exercise because someone else was telling me to do it. But as soon as I started to take charge and I was thinking, I'm going to do these push-ups under my own choice, I'm going to go for a run because it's me taking control, everything changes. Everything changed for me. And that's why so much of my advice in my books is about you making your own decisions. Walk your own path, make your own plans. And there's a lot of rhetoric in our fitness culture saying you've got to trust the experts and you got to follow along in order to be successful. And I'm saying, yes, that's great as a template, but by all means, change it as you see fit. Change whatever you think is going to make you happier along your journey, because happier people achieve more success. That's also shown across the board. Making money, better relationships, better health and fitness. You show me someone who's enjoying their workouts and enjoying their food and eating healthy, and you're going to also see someone who's going to be so much more successful and maintain that success, not only in the short, but also in the long term. So steer your own ship, my friends. Get rid of the stuff that's making you unhappy because you probably don't need it, and pursue the things that do. And no, it's not going to necessarily be achieving an outcome that's out on the horizon, but something about the process right now. Look, I got mountain bikes, I got road bikes. Why? Biking makes me happy. I remember the day that I learned to ride a bike. One of the happiest days of my life, right? I was like, this is awesome. I love riding bikes. Have ever since. Riding a bike makes me happy. And that's why I have my Rocky Mountain Element, my Trek Domane that I purchased this year and stuff. Why? Makes me happy. No other reason beyond that. Do those bikes have any advantage over something I could pick up on, Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for $50 from a fitness standpoint? Nope, none whatsoever. They do exactly the same thing as a cheap old bike that's just, well-tuned and reliable. No advantage at all from a physical standpoint, but they make me happy. And that's why I have them. And that is largely what we should base a lot of our choices off of when it comes to diet and exercise, is doing things that make you happy today, in the process, making progress, because that's how we can have a happier and more fulfilling life, using fitness as a vehicle to do so. And 10 West Press saying music while working out makes me happy. Absolutely, my friends. And march to the beat of your own drum. I have this weird thing where listening to Frank Sinatra sometimes makes me happy when I'm working out. I don't know why it works. Doesn't matter. Makes me happy. And Johan Bedison saying, hey, Matt, thanks for the content. Big fan. Thank you. I tried the Armstrong pull-up program for 6 weeks or so and saw a decent hypertrophy of my back, but not my biceps. How can I program for arm growth, please? So make sure your tension in your arms is there. That's for one thing. Make sure that you have the engagement of your biceps is there. Second of all, you maybe just add some curls at the end. Suspension curls, dumbbell curls, banded curls, whatever you like, get some curls. Make sure you're using an underhanded grip for at least some of those. Maybe could A lot of people find they have better bicep activation with an underhanded grip, but especially towards the bottom of your pull-up. Make sure you still are maintaining tension in your biceps. Are you releasing the tension at the bottom, particularly in pull-ups, because that happens to a lot of guys, or are you maintaining the tension? Maintain the tension and you're going to get more growth in the biceps for sure with the pull-ups. All right, my friends, time for me to go out and make some burgers because that's going to make me happy. But thanks again very much, folks. And again, audio for this is always posted on the podcast directory of your choice. So check that out. Make sure you subscribe to Red Delta Project Podcast, leave reviews and stuff. Instagram has updates for this, and it's on the YouTube channel as well. Much appreciated. And I will talk to you later. So be fit and live free.